Hey, I'm back. I missed you all so much. I'm gonna kiss all of you on the mouth. So Behavior dropped the patch notes for the next update, which includes a made for this nerf, which I think is wonderful. I think most people agree this is a good change, but there are a handful of people that are not happy about this, so I figured I'd go over some of the comments. Killer mains finally cried and their way into a made for this nerf. I hope they are happy about ruining the one good survivor perk we had to their 300 good killer perks. The balancing in question being gutting made for this entirely and making it dependent on a perk that barely works half the time and only twice at that. I'm assuming this person is referring to Dead Hard being the only thing you can combo with made for this, which is absolutely not true. I don't like the idea that people think, oh well, made for this got nerfed, so it went from S tier to like F tier. That's completely not true. You can combo it with other things still. First of all, if you get hit off the hook immediately, you have made for this. If you have off the record and you get hit, you have made for this. If you have for the people and buckle up and you get hit, you have made for this. If your teammate has borrowed time, which probably isn't as often, you have made for this. If you have a styptic and you get hit, you have made for this. If you heal an injured survivor while having made for this and then you get hit because you still have the endurance, you get made for this. Like, this perk didn't just go from S tier to F tier. I'd say if anything, it probably went from S tier to like lower B to higher C tier. It's still a useful perk. It's just not useful by itself, or it's not as strong as it once was by itself, which I think is like a really good change. I think that's completely fine. It kind of reminds me of self-care in that sense, where old self-care was really strong, and then they made it to where you need to bring other things to make it strong, because self-care by itself is, it's kind of garbage. But if you have botany knowledge, if you have resilience, if you have desperate measures, you can get decent value out of this perk. You just can't slap the perk onto your build and just get a ridiculous amount of value, which Made for this was doing. So again, I think this is a really good change. Made for this, now another useless survivor perk nobody will run. Must be nice being killer with several useful strong killer perks. Literally so many I can't even list, while survivors has somewhere like 5 or 6. I really want to make this clear. Made for this is not useless now. I don't know why people think this is going to be a useless perk. It kind of reminds me of when Dead Hard got nerfed and they were like, oh, that's it, this perk is done. And it still ended up being really strong. If 2 people are injured, including yourself, and the killer is coming, and you heal them before they can get to both of you and you end up taking the hit, you have made for this. You have the endurance. Like, it's not completely useless. Like, you can still get endurance from it just from made for this by itself. Although it would be better to combo it with other things, but to think that made for this is just going to get no value, you're not going to get anything out of this perk now because of this change, it's nonsense. Off the record, resilience, life, sprint burst, adrenaline, windows, deliverance, unbreakable, for the people plus buckle up, deja vu, kindred, reassurance. Those are 13 strong and viable survivor perks other than made for this, and I can name more. You just watch Otstarva, see his tier list, be like, yes, these perks good because content creators say so. Ain't nobody using these perks. Unbreakable is shit. Deliverance is shit. Off the record is shit. These are perks that you have to already be losing to use. Now, I know content creators tend to make certain things popular, which is true, but if you play this game often, I don't think it takes a fucking genius to understand that Sprint Burst is a pretty good perk. I don't think you need a content creator to tell you, hey guys, Sprint Burst is good. Like, if you play the game, you're gonna know the perk is good. I mean, people can piece together what perks are or aren't good, and Sprint Burst wouldn't fall in the category of, I'm not sure. Let me see what Otstarva thinks. And I like how they said, oh, no one's using these perks. Like, I'm sorry, do people not use Windows? Do people not use Life? Do people not use Sprint Burst? Do people not use Adrenaline? Do people not use Unbreakable? Like, are you... what? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Do you not play this game? A strong perk for Survivor is moving 3% faster. A balanced perk for Killer is being able to knock 25% off the most progress gen just by simply hooking. The argument of, it's a 1v4 so the game is Survivor-sided, is stupid. If you put Mike Tyson versus 4 kids, is it kid-sided? No, bro. Look, I've been on the internet for a while. That is by far one of the dumbest things I've ever had to read in my fucking life. I'm not even going to address the analogy because it's like, what the hell is that? But I do want to talk about the 1v4 aspect of it. I don't see why people shit on Paimres all the time. Ideally, while you're chasing one person, there are 3 different people on gens. Now, if gens were hard to do, I could understand why people would be annoyed with this perk, but they're literally the easiest part of this game. It's the objective. It's really not that hard to do. If you play solo queue all the time, I can see why this is frustrating, but if you find people to play with and you actually do gens, you're probably going to win a lot more than you think. If you had 4 survivors in one game who were bad at chase, but they all did individual gens whenever they got the chance, the killer is going to struggle. So I think pain res is completely healthy. If you played made for this for the speed boost instead of the endurance, you actually haven't seen the true strength of this perk. Yeah, for sure. That's totally why everyone was running made for this. 100%. They were running it for the endurance. You totally get more value from the endurance than the speed, right? Totally. People definitely weren't running it because that 3% could be the difference between you making a window or a pallet, right? No. That's not the true strength of the perk. The true strength is with the endurance. So this person uploaded a highlighted sentence from the patch notes. Even a small speed boost can make a big difference in the right hands. And they replied, I couldn't agree more, Behavior. So it's about time we gut Bloodlust, right? You know, that thing that you state hardly activates during chase. Oh, you also buffed it with patch 6.1. First of all, I'm not a big fan of people who put smiley faces at the end of their sentence after they said something stupid, thinking that they said something smart. That will always piss me off. Second of all, this person also uploads clips of him spinning babies. I'm talking like he beats the shit out of babies. That sounds really bad out of context, but I mean babies as in people who don't play killer that often. He will post clips of him just annihilating them, spinning them, looping them forever. Like, I don't know if his opinion should even matter on this topic. Like, come on, tell me you don't see a correlation between someone who posts clips of them annihilating new killers and someone who doesn't want Bloodlust in the game. Like, you have to see that correlation there. I'm not even gonna say, you know what it is. You know what it is. Call me an entitled Survivor main if you want, but this update is just another Survivor nerf. Buffing the game for killers once again and taking another good Survivor perk while Bloodlust still exists and tunneling is such a problem. All in all, disappointing. In that same thread, we just can't have any speed buffs, all while Bloodlust is so heavily depended on. This person responds, Bloodlust is not even comparable to MFT. What? She responds, how is it not? You don't get penalized for whiffs, and you get it as long as you're in chase. And I think this response is probably the highlight of everything. You do realize that the design of the game is such that a single survivor isn't supposed to be able to run a killer for the entire match, right? If Bloodlust is such an issue for you, then drop a pallet, force them to break it, they'll lose Bloodlust. Having a problem with Bloodlust is a skill issue. Now, I see people saying this all the time. Oh, well, made for this is a speed boost. Bloodlust is a speed boost. How are they not the same? They're not the same because the killer is supposed to catch up to you, right? Whereas a survivor, you're not supposed to loop a killer for 3 gens. That shouldn't even be a thing. I know your favorite YouTuber might do that. That's not supposed to be possible. If your chase is lasting that long, either the killer's an idiot, or they're bad, or both. In an ideal world for people like this, they usually think chases should last about 2 to 3 minutes long. Like, I think people seem to forget, or at least people like this seem to forget, that you're going against a real person. You might be having the time of your life, you might be running made for this, you might be running hope and resilience, and you might be having a lot of fun. But there's another person on the other end of that screen that you're going against. So to remove Bloodlust and have 2 to 3 gens pop each chase because the killer simply can't catch up, that's terrible. Like, we will go back to a place where queue times are going to take 15 minutes for Survivor and 30 seconds for Killer. And this discussion kind of brings us to a point where we have to ask, why do people think like this? I think a big reason why people feel this way about Made for This and how, like, oh, the game is so killer side is because we came from a time where Survivor was nuts. I mean, you had old Dead Hard, like Dead Hard for Distance, you had old Decisive Strike, you had the Vault Speed build, you had DS mixed with Unbreakable, so the killer was so scared to pick you up. Like, Survivors alone were very strong. A casual survivor could keep up with a really good killer because of all these second chance perks, which I think they're very used to. So to take all this away makes it to where a casual survivor's experience is significantly worse now because they have to actually get good at the game. Because casual survivors can't keep up with good killers because of their second chance perks, they feel like it's a frustrating experience. And to that, I gotta say, you gotta get better at the game. You gotta know your check spots, you have to mind game more. There are things you can do. And also another thing I recommend, stop playing solo queue. Just stop. Make friends. Find people to play this game with, or you're not going to have a good time. This isn't exclusive to DBD, by the way. This game requires a lot of teamwork on the survivor's end. Even games like Overwatch, like, if you're not grouping up with people, you're not going to have fun with the game. You need to find people to play with to exploit what makes Survivor so good, which is the teamwork, right? Like, you can't do everything on your own as Survivor anymore. You can't carry the team with your crazy perks like you were back in the day. If you have good teamwork, you will probably win 90% of your games. And these people that are casual that play solo queue, your opinions are just unfortunately invalidated because you are not really taking advantage of what this game has to offer, which is teamwork. Make friends, do gens, find people to play this game with, and I promise you, you will find it a lot more enjoyable. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can find me on Twitter at AdrianDBD. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Adrian. And before I go, I would like to end this video on one more tweet. If you have less than 500 hours in DBD, please stop posting your dog shit opinions on Twitter so I don't have to make fun of you. Thank you.